Hello, and thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I am the head of Paramount Studios, and we have this exciting new project that I would like to discuss with you. It is a new movie set in the world of Star Trek, and since you are one of the top Star Trek influencers online, we would love to have your feedback. This film will feature brand new characters, aliens, and settings that you have not seen before, but are still set in the same universe as your favorite Star Trek characters. Instead of dwelling on the moral and political ramifications of their actions and the world they inhabit, we would like to create a fun adventure that is not bogged down by decades of canon. What do you think about that idea? I hate it. I don't want that. No, I want to see a 20-episode season that details what happened during the first walk that Kirk and Spock did on the Enterprise when they met. I'm here to preserve the soul of this franchise that I love. So I want you, the studio, to use soulless AI to recreate the characters and setting instead of recasting or creating new sets. I also want you to digitally recreate the voices of the characters so that they sound exactly like they did. Basically, I want you to spend millions of dollars to make this brand new project look exactly like it would have 45 years ago. Are you serious? Yes. And the fact that you do not feel as strong as I do about these specific things means you hate Star Trek and do not understand it. Screw it, I'll just sell the company. Section 31 has been released to the masses, and while it is far from a perfect movie, there is one critique that I've seen online quite a bit stating that the film isn't Star Trek. This really frustrates me as a fan because I see the same critique on any project that Paramount tries to release with the Star Trek name attached to it. And I want to explain why this thinking is so dangerous to the franchise and many others. First of all, let's discuss the good and the bad in regard to Section 31. Section 31 is a quick adventure film that is more of a heist movie than anything else. It stars a cadre of different types of characters, all of which have their own abilities that make them useful to the story. The group is similar to the type you would find in films like Ocean's 11 or even the Avengers movies. Michelle Yeoh plays her role very well, and even though this is an ensemble cast, she is the main focus while not being a POV character for most of it. There are many things I liked about this movie. For instance, one of the characters is actually a golem-type robot that is controlled by a very small alien being, which is a concept I found very cool and one that I do not remember seeing before in a Star Trek project. The fight scenes are also pretty good, including one where the characters are phasing in and out of place so they can fight each other, but they also pass through everything around them, so at times it appears like they are punching through other people to hit their opponent. Again, a very cool sci-fi concept that I don't remember seeing before. Omari Hardwick plays a great character with an interesting backstory that does have connections to the larger universe, and he has great chemistry with Michelle Yeoh. One thing I think Star Trek has a consistent issue with is their villains, and for the most part, I like the villain choice in this film. There are basically two bad guys, and while they are presented as a mystery at first, anyone watching the film and not looking at their phone should be able to figure out who they are pretty quick. And without going into spoilers, I thought the choice of the main villain presented an interesting opportunity for Philippa Georgiou to basically see the personification of her past deeds and work past them. In the end, she is left with the notion that whatever she does, she may still not be able to outrun her past deeds. The villain acts as a mirror to her past, and the fact that her character is from a mirror universe was not lost on me. So all in all, I thought the villain choice was better than average in terms of Star Trek's past. Now let's talk about what I didn't like. A lot of the dialogue is choppy and does not work because the audience is not given enough time with these characters. The main group operate as if they've known each other for some time, but the audience, like Georgiou, still feels like we are not in on most of their inside jokes. For instance, there is one character that is lost pretty early in the film, and another character is unable to make any choices because the character that is gone was the one who centered them. This should make the audience care for the surviving character and provide some development for them as the movie progresses, but I don't think that it lands. I also question the musical choices in the film, as some of the soundtrack does feel out of place. There's a nightclub featured that at times sounds like it is from the film The Fifth Element, then at other times it sounds like it's playing music that you would find at a club in the real world. But my biggest problem with this film is the character Rachel Garrett. And this actually brings me back to my original point about if this film is really Star Trek. Rachel Garrett is known to fans of the franchise as a character that appeared in one of the most popular Next Generation episodes ever, titled Yesterday's Enterprise. The audience learns in that episode that Garrett was the captain of the Enterprise C, the version of the ship that preceded the one helmed by Jean-Luc Picard, and that she sacrificed herself and her crew to save a Klingon colony, which in turn prevented a devastating war. In this film, we are introduced to Rachel Garrett as a lieutenant who is supposed to be the leader of the team, but never really acts like it. At the end of the day, there is no reason for this character to be in the movie, and her appearance actually causes more issues with canon than anything else. But I believe that she was added because someone at Paramount understands that Star Trek fans need to have some kind of connection to the past of Star Trek, or more specifically the Enterprise, in order to be interested. There's even a moment close to the end of the movie where it really drops the ball with this character. There's a big scene where Giorgio is forced to make a sacrifice in order to save the universe, and I really thought that the writers were going to tie this back into the Rachel Garrett character and have the experience of seeing Giorgio make this sacrifice inform her decision later on in her life to sacrifice herself for the good of the Federation, which ostensibly would mean that the great warlord Philippa Giorgio was responsible for preventing a huge war between the Federation and the Klingons, offering her character a bit of redemption that she herself would not even be aware of. Wouldn't it have been cool if they made that point? But they didn't, as far as I could tell. Rachel Garrett is just a name used as a member berry that someone obviously thought they needed in the film to appease certain fans. And this gets back to my point of why does everything in Star Trek have to tie back to the Enterprise? The universe that Star Trek has created is vast in both size and age, as we now have over 1,000 years of content, but why does everything happen to just one ship? Honestly, it makes no sense that in a universe this large, that everything would happen to one ship and one crew. So let's just move on from that. The best thing about Section 31 is that it is new and does not have to fit within any other show's timeline or story points. It is just happening in the same universe where other more important stuff is happening. And that's fine. The two most popular Star Wars projects in the past few years have been the series Andor and Skeleton Crew. The thing that these two shows have most in common is that they have virtually nothing to do with the main story of the franchise, which is sometimes referred to as the Skywalker Saga. They show two very different corners of the franchise while creating new characters, aliens, and settings that exist alongside the established canon. This is what Star Trek needs to do more of because, as we know, if an organism is not allowed to grow, it dies. And I, for one, do not want to see Star Trek die. I want it to continue to live and grow. If you love the original series, that's fine because you have that to watch. Same as everything else that has already been created before this year. But to continually grade new projects against the certain aspects of the franchise that you adore and call everything else blasphemy is a self-defeating prophecy because you are making it impossible for any creator to produce something new that you can enjoy because the fact that it is new prevents it from being accepted. So is Section 31 a perfect movie? Heck no! You can talk about everything that I did here that I did not like, or the fact that there's so much exposition that at times it feels like the audience is being told as much as we are being shown. There are legitimate concerns and may have to do with the fact that this project started as a series and was turned into a film during production. But I never want to see another review that states this isn't Star Trek, because you know what? You don't own Star Trek. Star Trek is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's even bigger than the person who created it. It exists for everyone. And if we want Star Trek to continue to live on, not just in our imaginations, but on our screens with new content, then we have to understand that without growth, there is only death. And I'm not ready to give up on Star Trek just yet. Are you?